Hey there, fellow travelers, Mark here with Wolters World, and today we're here in Cartagena, Colombia, and today what we have for you are 10 things that shock tourists when they come here to Colombia. And I think the first one and the biggest one that shocks tourists when they come here and their friends when they find out that their friends went there is, it's not a drug, narco, kidnapping wasteland. No, it's not the 80s and 90s, Pablo Escobar, the drug trade, I mean, these kind of things. It is not an issue like you had 20, 30 years ago, and that's why it actually can be a safe place to visit. Yes, you have to pay attention, but it is not the 80s and 90s. It's not narcos and all that kind of stuff. It's not drugs on every street. There's not kidnappings everywhere, and that shocks people when they realize you can come to Cartagena and have a really good time and come with your friends and your family. You can go to Bogota and have an incredible time. Go into Cali, Medellin, right? You're like, oh, Medellin, I don't know. Yes, you can have a fantastic time when you're here. So don't freak out about it and don't be shocked that, oh my gosh, I had a safe time in South America, in Colombia, because it's not the 80s and 90s, people. It is a fantastic place to visit. Whether you're coming for the nature, you're coming for the beaches, you're coming for the food, for the people, for the mountains, oh my gosh, the biodiversity. Yeah, it's not that narcos wasteland anymore, people. Now, another thing that might shock you when you are here, we'll start at breakfast, and that is soup for breakfast. Yes, Colombians love soup, but they love soup for breakfast. And there's actually some ones that you're going to see on restaurant menus, or maybe they'll have it at your hotel. Probably the most famous one is changua, which is basically like ripped up pieces of bread. There's eggs, the cream kind of stuff in there. It's like it really does feel like a breakfast soup. But also you might have caldo de castillo, which is like a rib broth, or you might have caldo de raíz, which is a root broth. But yes, like broth soups and all kinds of stuff, that is totally a breakfast. And you're like, wait, soup for breakfast? Who knew? Yeah, soup for breakfast, totally a thing here. Now, as a tourist, another thing that's gonna shock you when you are here is just how many street vendors there are. And some of the street vendors you're really gonna love, because you can get some really good friends. The obleas, those like wafer kind of things with the caramel inside or fruit inside. I mean, that's really good. But when I talk about just the overabundance of street vendors and ask you things, like if you're here in Cartagena, don't be surprised if, I'm not joking, 6 people in a row ask you to take a carriage ride, and you can literally say no gracias to one person, and then someone else will walk up right after them to ask you again. You're like, what? What's going on? Or the street vendors, like when you go to the beaches here and there's someone that offers you a free massage. Look, it's never a free massage, but those are there, and you're like, no thank you. Or the constant people, would you like a hat? Would you like a hat? Would you like a hat? Bring a hat, but don't worry if you don't, because someone's gonna sell it to you, because you're gonna need it for the sun when you're here. But honestly, the constant bombardment of the street vendors and the people that are doing that, you just gotta be ready for it. They kind of shock some people, but honestly, when you see food on the streets, I've eaten it. I kind of stay away from the meat parts, but if you're getting the obleas, or if you're getting the empanadas, or arepa de queso when you're here, which is like this cornbread thing with cheese inside, oh my God, and don't worry, you have arepas all over. That is the go-to kind of bread thing you're gonna have when you are here in Colombia. But yeah, those street vendors, they'll get you, and they actually have fruit and sometimes too. And I want to tell you another thing. Another shock you're gonna have is all the fruit, and potatoes you're gonna see and have when you are here in Colombia, because there's so much great fruit that you're gonna have fantastic juices. If we're talking juices of fruits you've never even heard of. Lulo, you want to have lulado, or you want to have lulo juice, which is basically, it looks like an orange, but it's more transparent, and when you drink it, it's green. But oh my God, it's so good. But the thing is, there's fresh fruit all over. You can get like little slices of mango that have been spiced up when you're on the street. When you go to the markets, you'll see all kinds of things. You'll see people walking around with fruit that they're selling, and you're gonna have it, because honestly, the fresh fruit is fantastic. But it's not just fruit, it's also how many varieties of potato they will serve you here. Like if you have ajiaco, which is a chicken and potato soup, there'll be potatoes in there. Sancocho, there'll be potatoes in there. When you get meat, because yes, if you go to Bogota, they love their meats, and there'll be some potatoes to go along with it. But yeah, fruit and potatoes, you'll be shocked how much you do have here and how much you're gonna love it. So don't pass up on the fruit juices, or when they offer you some side of potatoes, it'll be there. Just go ahead and eat it. It'll be good. Now, another thing that shocks tourists when they go out more than visiting Cartagena and they start visiting the country more is just the biodiversity of Colombia. Because Colombia, I mean, seriously, it's like one of the most biodiverse countries in the world. If you go like north, like basically northeast of here, you've got deserts on that little tip right by Venezuela. You have rainforests, you've got the Amazon, you have the Pacific coast, which is crazy. You have the mountains and where they're growing coffee and kind of things. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I mean, if you just look up Caño Cristales, the Crystal Canyon with the water going through the river, that's all the different colors. I mean, oh my God, this country has got so much for you. So if you want to go snorkeling, you want to go hiking, you want to just take in the views. I mean, the biodiversity here is incredible. But here's another thing that shocks people. It's not just the biodiversity, but it's also the cultural diversity, because when you're going to Cartagena and you're going to Bogota and you go to Medellin, you go to Cali, you go to the villages, it's almost like you go to a different country each time because there's such a different cultural vibe at each of them that you really have a super diverse trip when you're here, and it kind of shocks people when they think, oh, all of Colombia will be the same. No, the only thing that's the same about all about Colombia is how nice the people are. Now, another thing that shocks tourists when they come here to Colombia are the Chiva Rumbera, which is basically the party buses. And when I talk about party bus, I'm not talking like an enclosed bus. No, if you're in Cartagena, we're talking it's an open bus with a DJ, with music, with dancing, with drinking, all kinds of stuff as you go around. And it's not just here. There's other cities that have it too. And it'll be in all different kinds. Like in Bogota, it's more of like the fancy bus thing. Here, it might look like it's somebody's uncle's van bus kind of thing that's put around. But honestly, you're shocked. Like, wait, there's party buses? A lot of places, and tourists love them? Yeah, tourists love them. And sometimes the locals go on them too. But if you do take them, realize they're going to be taking you around for a while, and they might take you to other clubs, like different clubs, party in the club, get back on the bus and party as you drive around. But yeah, the party buses, the Chiva Rumbera, yeah, there's something you're really going to enjoy when you're here. If you're into the clubbing, or if not, it's still a fun thing to see when they drive around. Now, another thing that shocked me when I was here in Colombia is just how much really great street art there is. You might call it graffiti. I call it street art because when you see the work that a lot of the people have put into these, like if you're in Bogota, you're here in Cartagena, you're in different places around the country, it's really spectacular street art. And I'm sure we're showing a bunch of it here, but honestly, the amount of graffiti, but the amount of really street art, like talented graffiti you're gonna see is really incredible. Ah, yes, it's time to get back to food because who doesn't love food when it comes to shocks? And that is cheese, cheese, and more cheese. I mean, the fascination Colombians have with queso here is unbelievable. You can tell there's maybe some Dutch, some French influence here because, oh my God, they love the cheese here. And it comes in a lot of stuff. Like one of my favorite street foods I had was a plantain stuffed with brigadeiro, which was like guava paste and cheese. Or if you want to get some of the breads, if you want to have pan de yuca or pan de bono, there's always these little dough balls that have cheese inside, or it's made with cheese, and it's gonna be all over. I mean, cheese, and more cheese. I mean, they put cheese in their hot chocolate. Yes, chocolate con queso is something you can have when you're here, where you rip up this white cheese and you drop it into your cocoa, which is fantastic here, by the way. Chocolate, good thing to bring home to friends, okay? But honestly, and they melt the cheese in the hot chocolate, so you drink it and eat it. It's just wonderful. But if you come to a lot of times in South America, there's some cheeses here and there, but not a ton. But it'll show up in your empanadas, it'll show in your arepa de queso, you'll show it all over. But yeah, queso, more queso. Yes, I like some queso with that. Queso at breakfast, queso at dinner. Yeah, like that. Queso is a thing. Cheese, and more cheese. Now, another shocking thing is when you come here to Colombia is the architecture, the colonial architecture. If you're in Cartagena and you're within the city walls, you're walking around, seeing the colonial parts, seeing the walled city, seeing the balconies, seeing the buildings, seeing the churches, it's just gorgeous. Parts of Bogota, when you go to Plaza de Bolivar, when you see that, when you go to, when you're going to some of the small villages that are out there you can visit. Part of the best ones if you're by Bogota, if you're gonna go to Villa de Leyva, that is just gorgeous there with the huge square there, all the buildings. You really feel like you're back in like the 1500s, 1600s when you're there in terms of the architecture, and you have so many towns around the country. Barichara, you can go there. I mean, it's just unbelievable, the colonial architecture, the colonial vibe you get in some of these small towns, but also in the big cities. You're like, wait, it's not just steel and glass. Yes, they do have some of those kind of buildings. Don't deny me that. I won't lie about that. But honestly, when you get to some of those colonial towns, take up the chance. When you come, don't just, Cartagena has its colonial stuff and Bogota has its, but go and see some of the other towns and villages and areas to really help you see that colonial history, but that colonial architecture, because it is just beautiful. I mean, that's why people get sold on coming to Colombia when they see those pictures, because they show that Colombian history, that colonial time, buildings and architecture. It's really an incredible experience to take in. Now, my coffee fans, I have a bad shock for you. And even though this is the home of Juan Valdez, I gotta tell you this, you'll be shocked that the coffee here isn't really that great. Because yes, they grow the coffee beans here, but they're not roasting them here. They're not processing them here as they do in other places. So you're kind of surprised that when you have a tinto, that's the local coffee, when you have a tinto, it's not like this amazing coffee experience you expect from the country that gives us so much of the fantastic coffee around the world, because the beans get exported and we get what comes back. So, or there's a few roasters that are here, so do be aware of that. So if you want to get the really good coffee, you got to go to a cafe and have some there. But when you're on the street, you can get a tinto, you can get a little cup of coffee, and yeah, don't be shocked when there's people that are selling coffee from thermoses when you're walking around. So just have a heads up for that. But yeah, you will be shocked because Juan Valdez kind of lets you down when you're here. And then I'm going to add a little bonus one here, a little side dish, a little thing that just pops up in a lot of my videos. I always throw a little bit extra at the end of our shocks, and this is one that I think is very appropriate for here in Colombia, and that is just avocado everywhere. Like, you'll notice when you go around, there'll be avocado as a side dish. There'll be avocado with your meal. There'll be avocado as in guacamole. When you're having your patacones, you will see avocado, avocado, avocado. A lot of places. Even if you're going to somebody's house and you're going to a barbecue, like a family barbecue, yeah, they're gonna grill up those avocados as well. So don't be anti-avocado. So if you are coming to your hotel, believe me, they'll have avocado at breakfast. So if you wanna have your avocado toast, you can have it as well. But what are some things that shocked you when you came here to Colombia? Let us know in the comments below so you can help out other travelers have a better time in this beautiful country, because from the biodiversity, they're wonderful people, they're really good cheese, and a fantastic, fantastic just colonial architecture and everything. When you're here, let us know in the comments below to help out other travelers, because honestly, Colombia should be on your list of places to visit.